What's up, guys? Dylan Rusher, Cage Shy Press, joined today by a UFC featherweight boasting an 8-1 professional record, coming off a sensational flying knee knockout victory over Ernie Juarez on Dana White Contender Series in August. Jose Delgado. How you doing, Jose?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for taking the time, bro. So I wanted to start first things first before we get to the Dana White Contender Series and even your professional career. You were born and raised in Yuma, Arizona, correct?
Yes, sir.
What can you tell me about your childhood out there in Yuma? I've been there a few times. It's a pretty nice place.
Pretty nice place. A lot of people usually don't say that, brother. Yuma's Yuma was a good place, man. I really enjoyed growing up there. I say small town, it's all relative, right? There's a lot of smaller towns out there, but pretty small town and pretty hard working town. Like that's a big part of the culture out there. It's like it's an agricultural town. So growing up, like a lot of friends would be going from Yuma to Salinas or just finding different jobs, going wherever the seasons would take them. So that was kind of just prevalent. But growing up was really sweet, man. Like I'm a got a big Mexican family behind me, and just a bunch of parties every weekend, getting together. Real tight knit community out there.
I saw they had a watch party for your Dana White Contender
Yeah.
Series fight, man. That was pretty cool. They got pretty excited. Uh how did you get into mixed martial arts? So did you get into MMA or start one form or another in Yuma?
Luckily, for like it being a smaller town, they had a full MMA gym back pretty early on. It was run by Chance Farrar, who fought for the WC title against Uriah Faber way back in the day. And he had a gym out here called Arizona Athletic Club, AZAC for short. And I started there about 10 years old. But I was just a fan of this shit, man. I just watched the sport. I watched boxing growing up from as a kid. Really enjoyed boxing, really enjoyed messing around with cousins, just playing rough. And I saw an MMA fight and I saw elbows and knees and kicks to the head. And I was like, what the fuck is this? This is so much more violent, so much more whatever you want to call it. But it just called to me, man. I was like, I want to try that. The grappling, the strike, and just everything combined. It seemed just crazy. I just wanted to try it. I begged my mom for years, dude. It took me like years of like, just put me in, just put me in. Let me give it a shot. Eventually she relented and she signed me up to that gym and I started training there at around 10 years old. And it was cool, man. It was jujitsu, kickboxing, boxing. Our wrestling program wasn't great, but Yuma has great wrestling, has a lot of great teachers out there, a lot of great coaches out there that helped me develop the wrestling later on. But as far as early on, it was jujitsu and kickboxing.
Thank God your mom finally budged, man, because it's definitely
Yeah.
paying off now. Who was your favorite boxer to watch growing up? Was it Hearns?
I love the Hitman. I love the Hitman. I was watching Modern Era. It took me a while to go back and really do my studying and research on the history of the game. But I love Mayweather. Favorite though was Juan Manuel Marquez. He was the man to us, man. His fights with Pacquiao were legendary, and they was like when he knocked out Pacquiao in the fourth fight. I could tell you, man, there was silent. You could hear the silence of the entire city of Yuma, Arizona, and then the fucking roar of it. Everybody in that city, everybody in the world, but everybody in that city, man, you could feel it. The next day, it was crazy. Like it's a weird little fight town, kind of.
Yep, that's awesome. That's awesome. So what prompted you to make the move from Yuma up to Glendale and start training at the MMA Lab?
Yeah, so just being a fan of the WEC, man, you see Benson Henderson tearing through the division. You see John Crouch leading that charge, standing behind his guys. And it was always kind of understood that, like, I'd love to, go through it or go through Yuma and like build myself up in Yuma, but the resources just aren't necessarily there. They're getting better, and a lot of guys are kind of leading that charge out there. It's pretty cool to see.
Hmm.
But at the time, it just wasn't really happening. There wasn't any local fights in Yuma, and it was just tough to get things going. So I knew if I wanted to really chase this to the best of my ability, I'd have to come out here, come out to a bigger gym, and I'm really glad I found the MMA Lab. Moved out here when I was 18 and started training here, man. And it's been my family ever since.
So you feel like you found a home at the MMA Lab, I can tell. So what can you tell about guys like Randy Steinke, John Crouch, and like you said, watching Benson Henderson day in, day out, putting in that work, of course, champion of so many different
Yeah.
promotions. How have they helped evolve your game over the years?
Oh man, words can't really give it justice, man. Like they've done everything. I mean, there's so many guys that have given me everything there. It's funny, Randy and I's history is a little funny because man, we've been putting in great work together, and we're gonna continue putting great work together. But at the start of our relationship, we were adversaries in a way in terms of my first amateur MMA fight. He's in the corner, but he's in the corner of my opponent. And it's funny at the time I was like, oh, and I lost. It was my first fight, my first loss. Lost a split decision. I'm gonna get that loss. You know, in your head, you're like, I'm gonna get that loss back, and then I'm gonna get his ass too. Dumb shit. But then later on, we started training him, and he's helped me out a ton. There was a time where we really started putting work together. I had a broken hand. I was coming off a broken hand. I had to get surgery. I was out for like six to 8 months. And every day, man, he was just there to help me out, work out the lead hand, work out the stance switching, playing with a lot with the footwork. And that was a really huge jump in my technical game, was working with Randy and John Crouch. I mean, he does such a good job of creating a great environment, man. That's such a crucial part, man. Because so many gyms, so many other, you hear kind of horror stories. You're like, oh fuck, like you can kind of take for granted just how special what we have at that lab is. Like everyone just comes in and they bust their ass, and everyone's willing to share that knowledge. Or if they're not super vocal guys, they still share it. Like Benson's not the most vocal guy. He is, and but he also leads. He just leads by example. And there's so many guys that lead by example. You watch Jared Cannonier's fight 2 weeks ago, and it's like, oh my God, like what a fucking man, what a fucking warrior, what great effort.
Mhm.
You can't help but be inspired surrounding yourself with people at that gym.
Definitely, definitely. Jared Cannonier, 40 years old, and he looks like that. It's like one of the
Level
craziest.
40, brother. Level 40.
Level 40. I also, you mentioned your amateur career. I saw you were booked to fight Angela Toigui at one point in your amateur career. You guys are teammates now. Were you guys teammates back then?
Yeah, that was never a scheduled fight. I don't know why that's on my tapology,
Really?
but yeah, we were teammates at the time where I saw it pop up and I was like, it's weird. Like that was never a fight that was
Yeah.
scheduled.
Okay. So, it's weird to me because I feel like I've watched your whole professional career unfold.
That's pretty crazy, man. Yeah,
Your first
you've been
pro
around
fight,
forever.
yeah, was Rough 46 at the
Yeah.
Celebrity Theater. That was one of my first events I ever covered, maybe like my third event. You choked out
Oh.
JJ Nelson in the first round. What did it mean to get that first pro win? And did that victory like solidify like this is what I want to do? I want to pursue a career out of this?
I've been set since I was a little kid, man. My
Yeah.
mind's been set. But that win was so cool to have on another level because man, it was so tough. I mean, it is what it was, but it was just tough to get to that point, man. My amateur career took about like it took forever. You know, there was a pandemic where fights weren't happening. It took over like a year and a half for a fight to happen. So it's a year and a half out. The fight, I get an amateur fight. I break my hand. I'm out damn near another 9 months. I get another fight, amateur fight scheduled. I was supposed to fight Ali Muhammad. He gets injured. Fuck it. 2 weeks out. Another fight doesn't happen. So I'm just out. I've been fighting like once in two years, 2.5 years, whatever it was. And I was like, fuck it, let's just go pro now. Because it's kind of bullshit. Why are we waiting? I'm pretty fucking good at it. I'm getting damn better. So that pro debut was like nice, man. You're able to say like, fuck, I'm a pro athlete. A lot of people will ask you like, oh, what do you do? What do you do? And you're like, oh, I fight. And you're like, oh, that's cool. Like you in the UFC. You gotta be like, no, I'm an amateur. I'm trying. I'm working on it. You know, give me a little bit more time. And it was nice to be like, yeah, I'm a pro fighter. That was a really cool step. A step I knew that was gonna happen, but nevertheless, still a cool feeling.
Definitely. And you took a lot of steps after that. So you won your next two fights until your first professional defeat, unanimous
Mhm.
decision at UFL 1 to Chris McCate. What were some key takeaways, something you learned, something you took with you going forward from that lone defeat in your professional career?
So much, Ben, so much. I think there was a real like personal, it's hard to say, kind of a lack of belief in that fight. And it was Chris is doing. He fought his ass off. He's a stud, D1 All-American, really tough fighter. But mentally, it was like one thing where I was like, oh, I was just so weary of his takedowns, so weary of the wrestling game that I wasn't being offensive. I was only thinking defensively. And that was like an immediate thought of like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I can go with anybody in the world. If I'm just backtracking, if I'm just worried about it, that's not me playing my game.
Hmm.
So that was a big mental switch of like, I believe in my game against anybody in the world, everywhere in the world. Obviously, you think of strategies, you think of making the fight as easy as you can make it. But to never, I'm never gonna lose a fight just because I was scared to wrestle offensively. I was scared to go into someone's specialized realm. So that was a big turning point. And I mean that was the biggest one for sure.
You definitely had no issue trusting your abilities since then, right? You're 5-0 after that lone defeat. You rattled
Hmm.
off four consecutive victories across four different promotions: Cage Warriors, Tough Enough, LFA, UFL, leading you to the Dana White Contender Series, right? So you said that it feels like it took so long. To me, it feels like it took so short from the outside looking
Yeah.
in. Like, it feels like just yesterday we were at the Celebrity Theater in Phoenix, and now I'm like, I see my phone like Jose Delgado, Dana White Contender Series, like holy shit. So
Yeah.
to you, it didn't feel as fast. It didn't feel like it was as fast.
It's weird because it does just kind of happen. That's the thing is like so much work, and then it happens, and then it's like, oh shit, it happened. You know what I mean? There was one thing that kept ringing in my head, like when I got the call for the Contender Series fight, I was like 11 days notice, 16 years of work, 11 days notice, 16. I just kept for whatever reason, like it wasn't like it was almost subconscious, but it's like 11 days notice, 16 years of work together, 16 years of hard work, dedication, commitment, sacrifice. Let's fucking go. So I feel like yeah, it took a long time, but I feel like the timing is perfect. You know, I'm not I'm not wishing I could have got here sooner. This could have happened sooner. In the moment, right? We're always impatient. I
Mhm.
struggle with patience a lot. I want it all now. I want world titles now. I want pound for pound king now. I want these things. But man, the timing has been great, and I trust the timing.
So no hesitation when you got that call in 11 days notice.
Brother, hell no. Hell no. 2 days notice, 1 day notice, brother. I'm there.
And it was featherweight, right?
Yeah, that was brutal, but yeah. Yeah, fuck.
Well, I feel like I saw something, but 11 days when you got the call, 11 days notice, what were you weighing at? Like 170 or a little bit less than that?
Just a hair less. I was about 169. I was on my way to get some ice cream, you know, and that trip had to get U-turned pretty quickly. But this was a tougher wake up, man. Like to the last minute, I was like, the weight came off pretty good initially, and then like the last couple pounds just staggered, man.
Hmm.
So I had like weigh-ins were at 9. I had to be at 146. I was 147.2, I think. And like the weight was just going slow. It was already 9 o'clock, weigh-ins for work from 9 to 10. And at a certain point, we're like, all right, we're just staying in the tub till time. And so I was in the tub for like 35 minutes. And then I made weight. I made 146.
Hmm.
So we got the pound off, but that one hurt.
So I mentioned those four consecutive victories before this last one on Dana White Contender Series. All four of those victories were finishes. Of course, the finish last month on DWCS. Do you
Mhm.
pride yourself on that finishing ability, being able to put on shows for the fans in attendance and the viewers from around the world?
Definitely, man. Like I'm a fan of this sport first and foremost. To me, it's first and foremost. I enjoy the technical element of the sport. I enjoy the violence element of the sport. I enjoy the just bleed moments of this sport. And for me, I want to be a complete fighter. That being said, I'm not looking to take a shot to give a shot. That's not my mentality at all. I want clean, fucking nasty performances, but I want them to be pretty one-sided. But yeah, I look to finish, man, but I don't try to force anything at the same time. I believe I'll find it, and I just trust myself that I'll find it, and that's it. I'm not in there. Oh, it's gotta be first round. It's gotta be second round. I just trust that I'll find the moment and I'll capitalize when the time's right.
Hmm. Well, you got a performance of the night on LFA. I hope to see you get one in the UFC. Get those 50 G's, man. Uh,
Yeah,
how
me
much
too,
do you
brother.
how much do you feel like you improved from fight to fight leading up to the Dana White Contender Series fight? Do you feel like each fight, each camp, you're just steadily moving up and improving your skill set?
100%. I feel that. That being said, though, I've had 5 fights in the last. Well, now I had 5 fights in a 9 month span, to where it was just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So I was improving, but I didn't really have much of a time to kind of like relax, kind of look at the landscape, look at the landscape of my skill set.
Hmm.
It was just kind of grind, grind, grind. Now I have a little bit. Now I believe I have a little bit more time. You never know. Call could come today, but I believe I have a little bit more time. So that's what I'm doing right now. Is I want to make sure I'm so goddamn sharp. I want to make a statement for that UFC debut. Every day I wake up and I'm like, my next fight is gonna be my UFC debut. Oh fuck, brother! I've been waiting for that moment. You know. So I
Hmm.
want to make sure that I'm doing everything in my power to make my rate of improvement as high as I possibly can.
You've had some teammates make their UFC debut recently. Marcus McGee's the one that comes to mind because I watched him on Rough. Do some of these guys give you tips leading into the Dana White Contender Series and maybe now leading into the UFC debut, like stuff to keep you, mentally sharp, not, too nervous or this or that?
So much, man. Marcus is a big guy, man. Marcus, like I got the call on a Friday for the Contender Series. Monday, where I shot him a text with my opponent. He took a look at the video. Monday, he gave me his input. We drilled for about 2 hours on specific things. Mario Bautista, I gave him the video, gives me his input. Bulldog, Mike Hamill, Benson. Just I try to get as much information as I possibly can. And there's so many great resources there at the lab to extract that information. And yeah, man, they've been super helpful. And one of the biggest things is like seeing that transformation in person, man. And like me and Marcus have been on, I think, three local cards together. I hear rumblings of a November fight for Marcus. I'm not sure if it's out there, so I won't
It
speak
is.
on
It
it too
is.
much.
Today it
It's
got
out
out
there?
there. Yeah.
They got
Who's
all
fighting
right.
again? You
You
don't
say it because I'm not
Yeah, no,
sure.
you can't say it, right? Hold up. Damn,
Yeah, let me know. If it's
it's
out
a
there, then
best
let's
fight.
go.
It's on the and I'm gonna be a part of the embedded team for that one because it's a new.
Ooh, sick, dude.
Oh, Jonathan Martinez. Oh,
All right,
that's a good one.
perfect, but that is a fucking banger. Me and Marcus have been on three local cards. I couldn't think of a better date, a better venue, a better teammate to go into a battle with. I'd love to make my UFC debut on November 9th. MSG, baby. New York City. God damn. That
Hell
don't
yeah.
sound too bad to me.
I would love to see you there, man. That sounds good. That makes sense. Jose Delgado
Yeah.
UFC debut, November 16th at MSG. I like it. I like it.
Sounds good,
Back
don't it?
to back to the Contender Series fight. We talked a little bit about it, but you spoke about Marcus watching film, your teammates, and of course you yourself watching film on your opponent. That flying knee, did you see an opening for that in film study, or is that something you just busted out in the moment?
I thought a knee would be there for sure. You know, he's a guy who plays behind the high guard. He's pretty tight here. You can go around or you can go through it. I think I did a lot to set up that knee with certain takedowns, certain shots to the body, just everything I do in the fight. I'm gathering the data. I'm trying to see what patterns you do, what head slots you shift to, what do you do when this strike happens, what do you do when this motion happens, and it just happens. It's not even a super conscious level, like, oh, this knee's gonna land. Like I went in with all intention of, all right, I'm gonna land this cross, and then his head dipped, and I was like, all right, let's see what happens if this knee goes up there.
Hmm. Well,
UFC contract happens.
we spoke about you improving, and I spoke about how I've been at so many of your fights. I'm certain that that was the best I've ever seen you look in a fight. Like you were on point that night. So you definitely continue to improve, which is great to see. What did that victory mean to you and your team at the MMA Lab, and also your family? Right? We talked about the watch party.
Yeah, man.
How excited was everybody about that win?
So excited, man. This one was a special one, man. Like the UFC means so much to everybody. It's been in what's the word? It's just in the forefront of people's minds. People know what the UFC means. MMA still for what not for whatever reason, it's still kind of like, oh, okay. LFA, cool, very cool. But like UFC is just another level, man. It was cool to see it. All the people I love in this world, immensely proud of the work I've done. And it was cool to share that moment with them, man. To have John Crouch, Benson Henderson there, sitting, waiting for that contract to be given to me. Oh man, it was just such a special feeling that words truly can't describe.
And like you said, you don't have to say you're an amateur fighter anymore or a professional fighter. You can say, I'm a UFC fighter, man. I'm in the UFC. It's
Yeah, that
crazy.
feels good, brother. That feels good.
Uh, so you mentioned when you're looking to fight again. What are you hoping to show fans, the promotion, or even the rest of the featherweight division if you get that fight November 16th at Madison Square Garden?
Improved defense, brother. It was 11 days notice, but I got hit with some shots in the contender series fight that I don't think I should have gotten hit with first and foremost with the skill set I have currently or in that moment. But well, that's one thing, man. I want to look untouchable. I want to look so hard to hit and just a motherfucker to deal with.
Hmm. I got a random question for you. I'm heading to San Diego tomorrow to be with Mike Hamill and Bryce Meredith. I'm gonna be shadowing
Uh,
Bryce all week, working for this
Sick.
company, Wrestlers Grind, to like document his fight week, make videos, be with him during the weight cut, all this different stuff. Is Bryce Meredith gonna stay undefeated this week in San Diego?
You're goddamn right. Bryce Smith is gonna stay undefeated, man. That dude's a monster. I'm so excited for his fights, man. So excited for his fight. Yeah, man. Him, Mike Hamill, John Crouch, Randy Stakey, man. He's got power team behind him, great people behind him. That dude's a stud, man. That dude's a stud. Obviously the physical accomplishments that he's done in wrestling and in fighting so far is really impressive. But just mentally, man, the dude's so solid. The dude's just mentally a rock. So super excited for him to go out there and do what he does best.
I've seen Bryce train with Tim Welch out there in Arizona. Have you ever gotten any training in under Tim Welch?
Yeah, man, Tim was actually one of the first guys that Tim who got me onto the fight team, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
When I
really?
got to the lab, yeah, they started like an amateur, we call it amateur because we have amateur fighters on our elite team, but like a MMA team outside of the elite team for guys
Yeah.
kind of just starting out, beginner MMA. And Tim was the first coach there. I was like maybe 3 months in, 4 months in to me being there. And he ran in. I just would show up every single day, every single day, every single day. And eventually he just kind of talked to Crouch and like, oh, this kid looks decent, looks like he wants it at least. And he's the one that got me into the lead team. And man, Tim and Shug and Tanquino run one of the best competition grappling days in the world, man. Friday and Mondays, all the best grapplers in Arizona, who are some of the best in the world, go in there and just scrap it out. So I've been there quite a bit, man, and they've been super helpful, very cool. And yeah,
Do you feel like another random question, but do you feel like, and I know what I think about it, but do you feel like the Arizona MMA scene has grown in recent years? And I think you've contributed to it, of course, but do you feel like
yeah.
you've seen it from not just from Yuma, but when you came to the lab originally to now, you see like it's elevated over time?
Dude, definitely. It's kind of absurd the amount of talent that's here. It's a hotbed of talent, man. From pure wrestlers, from pure grapplers, from pure strikers to complete MMA fighters, man. It's really special to see, and it's cool. You could kind of feed off of that environment, man. Whether it's our gym or it's other top gyms, man. There's so much high level guys here. It's a very cool thing.
Definitely. All right, I got a speed round for you, then one more question. I'm gonna let you go. I don't want to take up too much of your time, right?
Sounds
So
good, brother.
here's the speed round. Dream opponent, past or present, doesn't matter.
Max Holloway.
Hell yeah. Dream place to fight. I think I know.
Yuma's first, MSG second.
Okay, that would be dope. A fighter you look to emulate in your own game.
Jose Aldo.
Nice. Favorite sparring partner at the MMA Lab.
Mario Bautista.
And then the best food place in Arizona.
Ooh,
The toughest
ooh.
one.
That's a tough one, brother. Tough one. Uh, that cabron, tacos.
Okay, nice. And then this is the final question. I finish every interview with this question. Curious to hear what you got to say. When it's all said and done, fighting, training, maybe coaching one day, whatever it may be, what do you want people to remember most about Jose Delgado above all else?
How much I cared about what I do, man. How much I care. I put so much thought and care into my craft, and I want that to be shown. I want that to be seen.
Hmm. I could see your passion in every answer, man. In every fight, of course, you're definitely very dedicated to your craft. So it's been awesome to follow along your career, your journey. This was the first of many, man. I'm looking forward to doing another interview one day. But in the meantime, I hope you get that fight, man. MSG
I
alongside
know,
your
brother.
brother, Marcus McGee. Thank you, man. Thanks for taking the time. Jose Delgado. Appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you for the time.
Yes, sir. Take care, bro.
Likewise.